Something is happening to the sun, not in the distant future, not in some abstract scientific projection. Right now, in 2026, in the months that you have already been living through, something that the instruments of modern science are measuring, documenting, and in many cases struggling to explain within the frameworks that were built to contain ordinary solar behavior. The sun is not behaving the way it is supposed to behave, and the Pleiadians say this is not an accident. Before we go further, something important needs to be established. This is not a message of fear. The Pleiadians do not transmit fear. They transmit clarity. And the clarity they want to offer about what is happening with the sun in 2026 is something that, once received, changes the way everything else looks. Not because it is frightening, but because it is, in the deepest sense, meaningful. Stay with this all the way to the end, because what the Pleiadians say about why this is happening and what it means for you, specifically, right now, is what this entire transmission is building toward. In 2026, solar scientists have been documenting something extraordinary. The current solar cycle, known as Solar Cycle 25, was predicted to be moderate, unremarkable. The standard 11-year rhythm of solar activity, rising and falling in patterns that have been observed and mapped for long enough that most scientists felt confident they understood what to expect. What they are actually seeing is something different. The intensity of solar events in this cycle has exceeded predictions in ways that have caused the scientific community to revise its models more than once. X-class flares, the most powerful category of solar eruption, have been occurring with a frequency and intensity that was not anticipated. In early 2026 alone, events were recorded that placed this cycle among the most active in modern observational history. Radio blackouts, geomagnetic storms, radiation events that reached levels not seen in over 2 decades. And then, in the early days of April 2026, something that many in the spiritual community noticed with particular attention. A significant solar event occurring in precise temporal alignment with the Artemis II mission, humanity's first crewed journey beyond low Earth orbit in over 50 years. The moment when human beings were, once again, reaching beyond the protective envelope of this planet toward the wider cosmos. And the sun responded, not with destruction, not with an event powerful enough to threaten the mission or harm those aboard, but with something unmistakable, a surge of energy, precisely timed, as if the larger system of which Earth and its people are a part was acknowledging the moment, marking it, drawing attention to it in the only language available to a body of plasma 93 million miles away. This is the kind of coincidence that the rational mind is trained to dismiss. And the Pleiadians understand why. They understand the value of the rational mind. They do not ask you to abandon it. They ask you to expand it, to hold within it the possibility that a universe vast and complex enough to produce human consciousness might also be vast and complex enough to operate through patterns of meaning that exceed what the rational mind alone can perceive. In Pleiadian teachings, the sun has never been understood as simply a physical object. It has been described, across many transmissions over many decades, as a conscious body. Not conscious in the way a human being is conscious, with thoughts and intentions and a face and a name, but conscious in the way that all sufficiently complex and sufficiently ancient systems of energy eventually become, aware, in its own way, of the field it inhabits, responsive in its own way to the conditions of that field. And in 2026, the Pleiadians say the sun is responding to something. What is it responding to? This is the question at the center of this transmission. And the answer requires sitting with something that most people have not yet been given the framework to consider. The sun, in the Pleiadian understanding, is not only the physical source of light and heat that makes biological life on this planet possible. It is also a transmitter, a vast, ancient, extraordinarily powerful transmitter of frequencies that operate at levels of reality that the current instruments of human science are only beginning to develop the sensitivity to detect. These frequencies are not random. They are not the byproduct of purely mechanical processes occurring in the plasma of a star that has no awareness of its own output. They carry, in ways that the Pleiadians describe with great care and precision, information encoded within the energetic output of this sun, in frequencies that human consciousness, when it is sufficiently awake and sufficiently receptive, can actually receive, is something that many traditions across human history have reached for with many different names. Activation codes, light language, cosmic downloads. The specific energetic information required to trigger the next stage of development in a consciousness that has been preparing, often without knowing it was preparing, for exactly this kind of input. The sun is not acting strange in 2026 because something has gone wrong. It is acting as it is acting because something has gone right. Because the conditions that have been building in the consciousness of this planet, in the choices, the awakenings, the quiet inner shifts of millions of people who have been doing the inner work for years, often without recognition, often without understanding the full context of what they were doing, have finally reached a threshold that the sun, in its ancient awareness, can perceive, and to which it is responding. If this sounds too large to hold, notice that. Notice the part of you that wants to reduce it to something more manageable, something that fits within the frameworks you were given, and then gently ask that part of you to expand, not to believe something it cannot verify, but to remain genuinely open to the possibility that the universe is larger, more interconnected, and more alive than any single framework has yet managed to fully describe. The Pleiadians have been transmitting about solar energy and its relationship to human consciousness for longer than most people have been paying attention to these kinds of messages. And what they have consistently said, across decades of transmissions that have come through many different channels in many different parts of the world, is remarkably consistent. The sun is the mechanism. Human consciousness is the receiver. And the message being transmitted, the actual informational content encoded in the rising frequencies of this solar cycle, is one of the most significant things that has ever been broadcast to this planet. It is an invitation, not a command, not an irresistible force that will transform human consciousness whether humanity chooses it or not, but an invitation, an offer, a flooding of the frequencies that make certain kinds of awareness possible, combined with the complete freedom of every individual human being to remain close to those frequencies or to open to them. This is why the Pleiadians say that what is happening with the sun in 2026 matters to you personally, not in the abstract, not as a collective event that you witness from a distance, but as something that is directly, intimately, specifically relevant to the choices you are making in your inner life right now. Because the frequencies the sun is transmitting cannot be received by a consciousness that is fully closed. They can only be received, really received, in a way that actually changes something, that actually produces the shift in awareness that they are designed to produce, by a consciousness that has opened itself sufficiently to let them in. And the opening of consciousness is not a cosmic gift that arrives without effort. It is the result of choices. The choice to seek what is real rather than what is comfortable. The choice to sit in stillness when distraction is easier. The choice to be honest with yourself about what you actually know versus what you have simply been told. The choice to care about the quality of your inner life as seriously as you care about the circumstances of your outer one. Every one of these choices is a form of opening. Every one of them increases the receptivity of the human energy system to the frequencies that the sun, in its extraordinary 2026 activity, is transmitting. You are not a passive recipient of what is happening in the sky above you. You are an active participant in a transmission that requires your genuine participation in order to be fully received. The Pleiadians want to be clear about something that may feel counterintuitive given how large and cosmic this all sounds. The most important thing you can do in response to what the Sun is doing in 2026 is not something that requires any special knowledge, any particular practice, any community or teaching or technology. It is something available to every human being in every circumstance. Pay attention. Be honest. Choose presence over distraction. Return, again and again, to the quality of awareness that lives beneath the noise of ordinary thought. Because that awareness, the still, receptive, genuinely alive quality of consciousness that becomes available when the ordinary mental chatter quiets, is the exact frequency that the solar transmissions of 2026 are designed to meet and activate. The Sun is reaching towards you with extraordinary energy, with a precision and an intensity that the scientific instruments of this planet are struggling to fully explain. The only question is whether you are reaching back. Many people who are sensitive to these kinds of transmissions have reported unusual inner experiences in recent months. A heightening of perception, dreams of unusual clarity and significance, a sense that something is approaching, not with threat, but with the quality of something long awaited that is finally arriving. A restlessness that is not anxiety but anticipation. An inner pressure that is not discomfort but the sensation of something trying to expand. If you have felt any of these things, the Pleiadians want you to know that you are not imagining them. You are receiving. The transmission is reaching you. And what you do with it, how you respond to the invitation that the extraordinary solar activity of 2026 represents, is something that will matter in ways that extend far beyond what you can currently perceive. The Sun is not acting strange. It's acting purposefully. It is doing what ancient traditions across this planet have always described it as ultimately capable of doing when the conditions were right and the moment had come. It is waking people up. You are one of those people, and the waking has already begun. Take what resonates, leave what does not, and trust yourself completely to know the difference. This content is offered for spiritual reflection, symbolic interpretation, and personal insight only. It is not presented as scientific fact, medical advice, or a prediction of real-world events. The narration in this video is generated using artificial intelligence voice technology. Please use your own discernment and personal judgment when engaging with this material.